I first met Christian during the freshman summer program. We were both in the science track, so I remember we had English together, math, and then the physics, chemistry class that we took together during the summer. And the reason why he kind of stuck out, just being brutally honest, is because he was paraplegic. I believe Christian had muscular dystrophy, so he was confined to a wheelchair, and he had this big electric wheelchair, and that kind of sticks out in lecture halls, etc. And we all kind of got to know each other during the freshman summer program. Obviously, lots of us made closer friends with other people, or we made, closer friends with people than we did with others. But given how the program was designed, we all kind of got to know each other. But I didn't really get to know Christian or become close to him until winter quarter of my freshman year. And it's not uncommon for high school freshmen. A few things happen. You're away from home for the first time for like that long of time. It's expensive. You gain weight, right? Freshmen, I definitely gained the freshman 30, having all that food at the dining halls. And a lot of people get depressed. I definitely did. For a couple of reasons. Winter blues, right? It's just not like, summer anymore. And even though in California, LA, there's not too much, there is a difference. It's more subtle than other places. But what I will say is the biggest reason why UCLA, there was kind of like a little bit of a cliffhanger, more or less, is how I describe it, between fall and winter, is that UCLA invests heavily in the freshman experience. So they want you to have a really great freshman year entirely, right? But then fall quarter of your freshman year, there's really nothing else like that. That's the only way I can describe it, right? At UCLA, it's dominated by things like fraternity and sorority rush, and then all the clubs get back in session. Joining a club at UCLA would be like, I don't know, an election at any other college. You legitimately had to like apply and like be let into anything from the club swim team to the, I don't know, the political clubs. Like anything at UCLA had this huge barrier to entry. And again, winter quarter is kind of when it's starting to settle. Oh, the other thing about winter quarter is that for the sciences, anybody will tell you the second in the series is the most difficult. Absolutely difficult. The middle one, the second one. So that's the other thing going on, right? And I got kind of depressed for a couple of reasons. Aside from what I just mentioned, I was doing the Uberman sleep cycle, which is essentially where you exhaust yourself to the point to where you like break up your sleep into these 20-minute naps that is totality of 2 hours. It does not work that well as it says it does. And the problem is that it does take a lot of work, a lot of concentration, things like no caffeine. And then when you crash, you have to keep it up, or you crash and then you're fucked. So look up the Uberman sleep cycle. Is it Uberman with the 2 dots on top, the Ehrlich? Anyway, there was a few reasons why I was like kind of depressed and like just not feeling my cheerful self. The other thing is I felt really lonely. I didn't really have any kind of, I had like my close friends, but I didn't really have the social outlet that I did during the freshman summer program. Again, being Greek or being like oh my God, UCLA, again, it was like the Greek system, the international people had their group, and there was like not very many places for those who fell in through the cracks. Honestly, a lot of those other people, I feel like they were just in the library studying. That was the culture of UCLA. Anyway, Christian and I had a class that winter. Why did I say summer? We had chemistry together. And we studied a lot because we had the same class. That's what you do. And you have the same professor, right? And I just remember that's kind of when I got to know him, and I got to realize and learn like what a huge heart this guy was, and like what a solid person he was. He literally would let me sleep in his bed when it would come time for me to take my nap, and we would be in the minute of our like 8, 9, 10 hour study sessions. Like, who does that, dude? And then we would be so exhausted sometimes that he would play this song that you will all recognize. It's a very well-known song, but it was I think pretty sure this is the first time. Maybe I had heard it 1 or 2 times before, but I always affiliate this song with Christian, and that's Believe by Cher. He would play this song like, I don't know, he'd be like exhausted studying, and he'd play it on his laptop, and I always think of him. So Christian passed away something like not even 2 months before he graduated. If I remember correctly, it was supposed to be a double major in like chemistry and physics. The guy was insanely smart. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but child of Salvadoran immigrants, so like me, well, Salvadoran, and raised by a single mother, like at UCLA on scholarship, and went on a retreat with his friends, with a group that he was affiliated with, again, a quarter before he was supposed to graduate, and was found unresponsive. To not, I guess, ruin the story, because this happened obviously later on, and I was no longer at UCLA at the time when he passed away. But when Jane, of all people, shared the news with me, I immediately burst into tears. And the way that I remember, I came home, I knew that there was some news that she had to share with me. I could just tell from her demeanor. And she said, and I started guessing, right? And she's like, "No, you're not going to be able to guess this one." It was a huge shock. And we went to his vigil. So they had a candlelight vigil at the UCLA campus. And again, not trying to get too ahead of myself, but I was no longer actually, not very hard to figure out where I was at. But this was my first time coming back to the UCLA campus after some time away. And mind you, while a lot of the people that I knew were still there, that's no longer the case at all. But it was so sad. It was just so heartbreaking. And we all just felt like we all knew Christian. We all knew what a solid person he was. And like, I was so honestly devastated that people who know me know that like that's the kind of event where I would like to speak and say something, and I couldn't. I just felt like I really had like, I was so pissed off. I will one day open a scholarship fund in Christian's memory, and people should know who Christian was. Not only because of how intelligent, because of how far he came and everything that, he achieved materially, but really because of the huge heart that he was. And one of the stories that was told at his vigil was how he purchased a yearbook for someone his senior year who couldn't afford it. I don't know if I'd do that for someone. honestly. Like, you know, drop several hundred, you know, or around $100 for a yearbook, but it's the kind of person Christian was. And we were robbed when he passed away. But anyway, I want to. He got a higher grade than me in chemistry, by the way, that quarter. He did better than I did. But yeah, that brings us. So we're now at winter quarter, freshman year, still freshman year, and then we will talk about what happened in the spring coming up shortly.